Your life is chaotic and it's your fault. But that's the best news you'll hear. Because if you created the chaos, you can unlearn it and finally control what's been controlling you. See, most people hate hearing that because it means you can't blame anyone else anymore. But it's also the moment everything changes. When you realize you built the chaos, you also realize you can rebuild it better. I've spent years putting out fires. Bills overdue, a broken car, ego in the trash, one step forward, two steps back. Every time I thought I was getting ahead, something else broke. A bill, a relationship, my own motivation. It felt like I was playing whack-a-mole with my sanity. I was constantly behind in life. I felt like life had it out for me. Like the universe was bored and I was the entertainment. Why me? What did I do to deserve this? Does this sound familiar? Hit like so I know I'm not the only one who's lived through the chaos, and so the algorithm knows that we trauma bonded. Tell me below, what's the unluckiest thing that has ever happened to you? I once came home to find my girlfriend's ex-husband playing my PlayStation right after my car blew a head gasket, and I got transferred for apparently being terrible at my job. And when you live in constant chaos long enough, you start to mistake it for normal. You don't fix the fire, you start decorating around it. So naturally, life gave me the perfect crash course in chaos management. You guessed it, restaurant management. It wasn't until I started managing a restaurant that I realized I was a problem. I was constantly blaming external circumstances for my failures. I blamed inflation for my money problems, the market for my lack of promotions, and even the guests for my late bills. My money problems were because I dropped out. My promotions, I did the bare minimum. My late bills, impulse spending. When I started managing, it took me a bit to catch on. Longer than I'd like to admit. I was blaming guests on high comps, slow employees on high labor, lazy people on a dirty restaurant, and after some tough love, I finally started to understand that all these things were actually in my control. I could spend time coaching the employees, talking to the guests, and following up on their work, and the issues went away. That's when it clicked. If I could fix those problems at work by owning them, maybe I could fix my own life the same way. That's when blame turned into awareness, and awareness turned into control. I didn't want to admit that I had control because if I admitted that I had control, I couldn't play the victim anymore. It was easier to blame other people and external factors so I could feel bad for myself and say, woe is me. I didn't thrive despite the chaos. I thrived because of it. It gave me excuses. When I finally understood the problem started with me, I had to unlearn years of victim behavior and reframe my thinking. Taking control doesn't mean doing it alone. That's the part I had to learn the hard way, because I didn't have a support system when I started turning my life around. That's exactly why I built Burnout to Badass, so people who've lived through the same mental loops can stop fighting alone. If you're done letting chaos run your life, that's where the real work starts. Link's going to be in the bio, pinned comment, and description below. When you stop making excuses and blaming others, you finally start seeing results. Not everything's your fault, but it is your responsibility. When you take responsibility, you take control. And once you do, you can then design a life you actually want. That's the crazy part. The freedom you were chasing doesn't come from control. It comes from a responsibility. Once you own your chaos, you own your future. Chaos doesn't disappear. You just stop letting it drive. Understanding you can control the chaos is just the first step. But if you think control means comparing your mile to someone else's, that's the next trap. You aren't behind, you're exactly where you need to be. Because growth isn't measured in miles, it's measured in moments of awareness. I'll explain why in the next video. Linked right here.